Welcome to Virtual Japan as we are here today for round number 6.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Fultz. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Porcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Up now as we've got 3-wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 the lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Just 2 Idiots Cup Series. We are here for you, bringing you the action in 1080p and 60 FPS if my Aussie internet allows me to do so. We're bringing you the action, as I said, with the Just 2 Idiots Cup Series here tonight at Homestead Miami Speedway, specifically the Road Course B layout, which does not allow us to cut through the back two corners of the oval. We are definitely doing those two layouts as well. We are very much looking forward to an eventful race tonight as we head into Fuzzy Taco's Should Have Picked a Better Track GP. Now we are here, race 6 out of 8. It's going to be a good one. 90 minutes ahead of us, as well as 15 minutes of qualifying as qualifying continues underway at the moment. Drivers make their way around the track. I am your host, Gareth McAllister. As I said, representing Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action as best we can with the Just 2 Idiots Cup Series. We have 90 minutes prepared for you. Pit speed here, 45 miles an hour. So quite a slow pit lane as well. Currently looking at Book in his very nice callback to prehistoric. Oh, prehistoric at this point, I guess. Endurance racing with the Corvette ZR1 paint being replicated there by Book and his team. Now, speaking of teams, team standings up front, Motorsports in the lead, just barely ahead of Speed Squad, and Love Seat bringing up the third spot on the table. Followed not too far behind. I should say there's a lot of battles. SimCity Racing as well in 4th, as well as Night Racing in 5th, only separated by 4 points. Front two up front, Motorsports and Speed Squad only separated by 4 points as well. Other notable battles, 7th and 8th, N Squared with Rookie Mistake only behind by 6 points. With another battle for 10th position, Bong Life Motorsports and Scuderia DNF, only separated by 2 points with 105 and 103. 7 points between Bob Nova and Backmarker Motorsports in 12th and 13th. As well as Team Garlic with Dam Motorsports in 15th and 16th on 55 and 50 points, separated by 5 apiece. So all of these teams are very, very close together, considering we have 17 teams registered for the season, and we've got battles with almost every single team involved. So definitely a race to look forward to. Now, our sponsor for today's race, as well as for the entire season, is Designers Home Gallery. For over 2 decades, Designers Home Gallery has been saving the world from ugly floors. Now saving the world from ugly racecraft as well. If you're passionate about racing, check out the services provided by Designers Home Gallery and Just 2 Idiots Cup Series. J2ICS.com also obviously a big part of this event series, as they are the ones who are basically organizing everything. and I am doing my best to capture the moments for you. Now, Dickinson up ahead, leading the charge. He is currently first in the driver standings as well, followed by Tonlo and Simply Steve, bringing up the top 3 spots in the driver standings. That will be followed by, I believe, Joshua Spears in the 4th position and Beaver in the 5th place spot here tonight. As we have a whole lot of stats for you, but we're expecting a pit window of about 25 to 30 minutes, give or take. We have seen a 2-stop work in the past, so we'll be very much looking forward to seeing if that can work out the same as it was in the past. AJ looking like he is on the move, cutting the grass with the BMW as we are watching these GTE machines go around the B course layout. Looks like letting one of the boys go past. I believe that was Dust. Yes. As you know who sets his fastest lap of the night at the moment in qualifying. Another car has a little bit of an iffy start there. I believe that might have been Joe Albanese. As he lets some of the drivers go, we are in complete darkness, as you can see out on track right now. I believe when we shift to the start time of the race, it's supposed to be at around about 3 p.m. So the lights should come on in regards to the sun at least. That is what I believe I've been told up here in the booth. Yes, about 3:30 p.m, so slightly off what I was guessing at. But these drivers definitely have a lot of practice time under their belts to make sure they can squeeze every bit of time out here before the race begins. And we'd like to welcome all our spectators, friends, family, or just random people showing up. Very, very thankful to see your support of not only the Just Two Idiots Cup series, potentially Team Goon Squad, as well as maybe even Designer's Home Gallery, bringing us on board on this one as well. Very thankful to them. Now, fastest drivers in practice. There were 3 practices throughout the week before heading into this race. Different practice sessions to let the drivers get more familiar with their machine. And what we had was, we had Mr. Nickname, who brought in the top time. I don't believe I see him out on track at the moment, but I think he may be there. As we take another quick gander. Yes, Nick Johnson, that is who we are talking about, and it does show that he is involved in session right now, but not currently out on circuit. So we'll have to pay attention to what happens with him in regards to the event. But practice 2 was set the fastest time by Simply Steve and Dickinson in practice 3. Now, times were roughly the same in practice 1, 2, and 3, all around the 111.6 to 112 mark for the fastest times in practice. And it looks like Dickinson is staying true to form, setting a slightly faster time in qualifying, the 111.252 at the moment. And the camera to Joshua Spears, you can see there leading the charge over his teammate, you know who, just behind. I believe Dickinson is behind them as well. These 3 drivers really stole the show last week, about 3 weeks ago now, I think it was, in our last race that we had at Sebring International Raceway. And we will see if the same holds true tonight. Heard R-Tups as well, bringing it home on the radio earlier on. He seems to be struggling with a bit of the handling of his machine as he goes for a little bit of a turn. Trying to take all the downforce off of that machine on the setup to allow as much speed as possible heading into the oval part of this circuit. But definitely not helping him out when he applies the power on those very slow corners. Now, Up Front Motorsports, consisting of Joshua Spears and You Know Who, they are currently leading the championship right now. Just 4 points ahead of Speed Squad, consisting of Simply Steve and Eat My Dust. Eat My Dust actually providing me some very helpful car insight in real life just a few weeks ago after last endurance event. Very, very thankful to him, as he definitely made sure that I was not overpaid for some repairs I needed on my car, as I was a little bit mechanically inept, and I am happy to say that on stream, trying to get myself better acquainted with processes in the vehicles. It must be said, never understood just how much goes into not only a race car, but a car in general. You know that everything's kind of under there with all the electronics and safety stuff and the mechanical aspects and everything, but until you see a car pulled apart, you don't really know just how much is under there. Which really just makes it even more phenomenal that they're able to push these cars to their limits and nothing goes wrong for the most part. As we're focusing on Sector now, sitting in the 10th spot with a 113.234. A little bit slower than his best time so far with a 112.8. As his fastest time, just a little bit off the apex there, you could see heading into what is effectively turn 2. Turn 3, probably more like. Bit of an awkward one, because turn 1, you turn off the oval, then you've got a bit of a kink, and then you've got the effective hairpin before the S, so it's a bit of an awkward sort of one to call. There's another car, it looked like Urko was off track just for a brief moment there. 16 cars out on track right now. I believe we have 19 registered. 2 Fords, Bob Nova and Nick Beaver representing the Fords. You've got 5 Porsches, got 4 BMWs and 7 Corvettes, which seem to be the flavor of the night. But look at just how close everyone is as we're still flicking off qualifying times. AJ just gets ahead of Just Dylan with a 112.626. And you can see just how close the times are for everyone from Dickinson all the way down to Sector in 10th. They're all separated by less than half a second, and it's absolutely incredible. I mean, even from Sector to Biker Pilot, that's less than 0.6 of a second. And all the way down, I mean, it's absolutely incredible some of the times that these guys are putting in. And I will be happy to say that finally my live chat has updated. So thank you very much for tuning in. We have Penny Dickinson, another car guy, Tyler Book, Nicholas Trollman, Anthony Malley, probably said that wrong, apologies for that one. A lot of people have a busy night, we're being told, so that way is maybe why there is a slightly smaller turnout than usual. I will say 19 cars, still a fairly good sounding grid here tonight. Excuse me. Void telling us that he's going to be missing this race. That's unfortunate, Void. But the holidays are still going on, just as you said. A lot of people still running around and doing things. Take a snazzy quick look before qualifying ends over at Nick Beaver's machine. As his Ford is very, very colourful. I gotta say, I love the way it lights up the Ford at night time from the back end. Probably a bit of a pointless feature, but it looks cool, so as we all know, if it looks cool, it adds an extra 10 horsepower to the machine. As R-Tups tries to do something else. Did click off the fastest lap of the race for himself, as qualifying is just about to wrap up. We've got 3 cars still on track. J2ICS has just taken a tow, so Eat My Dust and R-Tops will be the only 2 out there trying to improve on their times, as we try and improve our voice slowly but surely as the weeks go on. Now these drivers have a drive-through at 16x and every subsequent 8 incidents after that. And will there be a tyre change? Well, there may be. I'm not so certain of that. We've been forecasted a potential tyre change. I'm not so sure that will happen. That's my prediction, but I have been proven wrong before. R-Tups does set off another fastest lap of the time, so maybe some more performance to eke out of that machine, as well as Eat My Dust not too far behind. So that is going to wrap up qualifying. We will get ready to grid up these machines for the start of our 90-minute feature event for the night. A lot of calls for Slow Nick up here in the spectator area. That is very, very interesting indeed, as there's quite a few Nicks out here tonight. So we're going to have to determine which one they're talking about. I have a sneaking suspicion the one that was on screen not too long ago in the form of Monsieur Beaver. But we will head back to the track. So, starting on pole, that is going to be Dickinson. Not too far behind him, you-know-who, actually lining up alongside. Should have been made that more of a point. Simply Steve in the 3rd position, with Joshua Spears in the top 4 as well. Urko bringing it home in the 5th spot, with Eat My Dust still improving his time, mind you, as qualifying wrapped up, sitting in the 6th position. Bob Nova in the 7th spot, doing a great showing, with AJ in the 8th position. Just Dylan not too far behind them either, with the 9th spot, and Sector sitting in the 10th position here tonight. Biker Pilot, our first Canadian out on track, nationality-wise, showing some love to the Maple Leaf to the north. Brew sitting in the 12th spot with a nice brightly painted blue Corvette, as well as we cycle the grid back to the 13th spot. It's going to have Joe Albanese and R-Tups lining up side by side, with Book and Waterdale the 15th and 16th positions. Nick Beaver unable to set a time so far, as he will definitely click them off later as we continue in the 17th spot. Nick Johnson and Prince Adam, neither of whom were able to make a way around the track during qualifying. We'll have to see if they're able to make it to tonight's event. It looks like they're not going to grid up. Nick Beaver has started from pit lane, it seems, as well. So this could be a bit of an interesting start to the night as we get ready to race here for the Just2 Idiots Sprint Cup Series endurance race. here at, once again, the Fuzzy Taco should have picked a better track Grand Prix. Now, it doesn't look like Fuzzy Taco's actually made it out, so he just wanted everyone else to enjoy the pain while he sits back and takes a look. Nick Trollman, Slow Nick is me. Nicolator. Alright. Thank you, Nick, for letting us know that. Everyone's happy to see that he is very much taken on board the Slow Nick role. Benny Dickinson very happy to see Dickinson up front, starting at the start. First part of recovery is admitting that being slow is a problem. Another car guy letting us know what his contribution to AA is. Love the race name. I love it too. As we get ready, I actually really enjoy Homestead with the B layout. I actually think it's a little underwhelming, sure, but I think it's quite a nice track. Could always be worse. If you ask me, the A layout is a much, much worse option. You can see there, just as they're heading, that little cut in there to the right, where the cones were blocking the cars going through. That was the cut into the A course, and it basically is, I don't know how to describe it other than very narrow, can't pass, and it's very slow because there's a chicane as soon as you come up onto the banking for the start of the race, and it's just awful if you ask me. But we're underway here as Dickinson gets the ball rolling. You know who is left wanting a little bit in the outside line. They jumped the green flag just a little bit, but that is okay, as Simply Steve takes it home. Eat My Dust is going to follow his teammate through, and does so through Joshua Spears, so he's going to have to give up that spot as they file themselves quite well. As we go back a little bit further, because Crew looked like he might have had some side-by-side action with Book, and yes, Book has taken that position away. Crew's under fire from R-Tups now, not too far behind. Let's see how these cars stack up at the moment. A very big battle with Bob Nova here, as AJ sitting right on the back bumper. Will he make a dive as they head back towards the oval? We've got a couple of drivers who've gone for a bit of an off-track excursion. Can I take a quick look as Book was the first of them, just looping it around all on his lonesome. Just Dylan as well, having a bit of an issue, and yes, just gets too much curbing, spins it around, manages to keep it off the wall. Great job. R-Tups also having a bit of an issue as we go back to live. Dickinson still right towing away with you know who not too far behind, setting the fastest lap of the race, of course, as one lap is completed. And I instantly correct myself as I was speaking that of course it's be the fastest lap. As we go a little bit further back, Urko in the 6th position is looking like he might make a move. Decided against it though. Bob Nova, however, was also looking like he wanted to make one, as the Porsches seem to be running away with it a little bit here. You know who has opened a gap just a bit to Simply Steve behind, as well as Eat My Dust. Now those two Corvettes are going to be a bit more stable underfoot, but those Porsches just seem to have the edge at the moment on the speed front. Go back a bit further in the grid. Look at that. Just Dylan tried to make his way back past R-Tups. It's not going to happen. But they were very, very close indeed. Dickinson had some company from You Know Who heading into turn 1. You Know Who backed out of it, as these two continue to try and fight tooth and nail for their positions. And once again, my live chat has deteriorated. And hopefully we can get that fixed for you as quick as we can. Because I definitely enjoy integrating my comms with the fans. I think I said fam, as in family, accidentally. But we're all just a big dysfunctional family, as James East often quotes. And we like to think we're a big part of that as well. Just Dylan is going to try and make a move, I reckon. He's close enough to throw the dive, decides against it. Artops may have gone a bit deep. Yes, he has, and right in front of them. What a cooler. Dale goes for a spin. The water cooler goes for a spin. Artup still holds on to the spot in front of Just Dylan, even through that little bit of a mistake. And it looks like all these drivers are quite close together at this point. And once again, my voice is just really not doing well, is it? As all that Christmas cheer has definitely taken its toll out on me. We hope you had a very good year. Welcome to 2024. Certainly another year of making me feel a bit older. Hopefully you feel a bit young at heart. Definitely younger than myself. It's not about the age, it's about how you feel. And I certainly must say I miss the days when I used to get up and not feel a little bit of an ache in my joints, but time goes on. As that is probably the weirdest way to welcome people to the new year, but there you go. And I stand by it. As Eat My Dust has current company with Joshua Spears closing the gap ever so slightly. Corner after corner. And he might make a dive, decides against it as they turn off of the oval and onto the road course itself. There's the little kink we were talking about into this very tight hairpin. And then back to another hairpin the other direction. Big straightaway once again. We might jump on board Joshua Spears just for a little bit and see if we can get a look at just what the track is like out there. We have Penny Dixon cheering on Urko as well as Anthony Malley also cheering on for Urko. Another car guy talking about college in one way, shape or form. Unfortunately quit that very fast. That's unfortunate. As Joshua Spears has actually fallen back behind Eat My Dust a little bit there. As it seems my internet may be struggling a little bit on the broadcast side of things. Hopefully our internet does stay intact for the remainder of the race. Of course, I could have mozzed myself just then, but I hope not. Or jinxed, I should say. Sorry, my Australia's taken over there. As another car guy, Penny Dixon, also talking about who the Ford GT is, and that is Bob Nova. Absolutely lighting a huge path for all the drivers behind and letting everyone know exactly where he is on track. Almost like a beacon saying, please do not hit me, as we have gone a full lap with Joshua Spears at this point, as he's caught back up to Eat My Dust, who in turn has caught up to Simply Steve. There is Bob Nova in the Ford GT. Let's get a bit of a closer look at that, as look at the lighting effects on that machine. Now, it must be said that that looks absolutely incredible. Now, I will point out, I'm pointing it out a little bit late, but I will point out that I was told by the owners of this league that this race would start at 3 p.m. Somehow, I'm not quite sure that that's exactly what's happened, considering that the lights are on the cars and it's very, very dark. But maybe it's just a really, really dark 3 p.m. Who knows? Maybe we're in space. But yeah, Bob Nova is definitely lighting the way. Your biggest mover of the race just now making it so. Nick Beaver heading up into the 14th position, up 3 spots from where he started on pit lane. In the other 4GT out on track with Love Seat Racing. Currently sitting in 3rd in the team standings with Captain CK as his teammate, who does not appear to have made it out tonight. Let's not forget it is only January 3rd, so a lot of people may be on holiday still, and who could blame them? I hope the weather, wherever you are, is a bit better than the weather that I currently have around me, as it is a very stormy, supposed summer in Australia right now. As AJ, massive lockup. Urko has to count his lucky stars. He did not just get taken out. Great job by AJ there, making sure that there was no contact between the two. And that was absolutely incredible how close that was. And oh no, we've just got a report for one of the first crashes of the race. We've got told that Crew and Just Dylan were involved in an incident. Crew in the very bright blue Corvette. Looks like he's just taking a bit too much. Stayed on the track and nowhere to go for Just Dylan, who unfortunately gets caught up in that one. This is from Just Dylan's point of view. And absolutely tried to turn away, and that car just kept on coming over and over. Not much doing there between the two drivers. Unfortunately, that does happen. So very unfortunate that Crew spun around and lost the back end. And even more unfortunate for Just Dylan, who finds himself in pit road right now and sitting in there currently just over a minute, trying to get repairs done to that machine. As you can see how beautifully purple Bob Nova is. It's a beautiful contrast. If you've got the black car at night, the purple lighting, chef's kiss to you, my friend. You may have, by purely lighting effects, won the award for best livery out here tonight. As that's certainly done it for me. Yeah, so Penny Dixon, the reason why you didn't see Beaver show up is because Beaver was starting in pit lane, as well as actually missing qualifying. He was a very late entry into the race, as he only showed up around about the last, I believe, 2 or 3 laps. So just got some very quick practice in, and unfortunately probably decided to start from pit load for that very reason. Didn't want to cause any kind of issues, as I know I have done so in the past. So Dickinson, you know who, still leading the charge. Dickinson just can't seem to get away from you know who, using all available racetrack. As they start to come up on some lap traffic, I believe that is Watercooler Dale, not too far ahead of them. We have seen a couple of drivers apparently come down pit road. Urko was down pit road, as well as Book, Watercooler Dale. You know who, as well as Simply Steve. Is what it's saying, but I'm not actually seeing it on the timing sheet, so I could be wrong. And I'm being told information doesn't happen. Interesting. Another car guy asking, you shall receive. Wants to see Bob Nova. Once again, we will show that beautiful lighthouse to you in a second, but just for the moment, you know who and Dickinson had to really work their way around. I believe that was Watercooler Dale, as he has a bit of a struggle on his hands right now. His hands are full with that Corvette, not performing to his liking. Take a quick look at Bob Nova. Look at that machine. Just a beautiful sneak preview. See it from miles around. And we'll pan the camera back real fast so we can just see. There you go, there's Blimp Cam. I don't think you can miss him on track. Well, that being said, look at Sector's bright yellow machine. Up, and as soon as he heads into darkness. Maybe not as bright as we thought. But we will go back and check the battle once again between third, fourth, and fifth. The two teammates of Simply Steve and Eat My Dust for Team Speed Squad are currently being chased down by Joshua Spears, who is in Upfront Motorsports with you-know-who currently in second. Now, these two teams, let me remind you, are only 4 points apart and currently leading in the team standings. So, these two teams being separated like this will pretty much keep the team points at an even playing field. They're going to have to hope one another has an incident of some sort in order to really open up that gap. Otherwise, it's going to stay very, very similar. And it's going to create a very nice battle for the last two races of the season. So maybe they shouldn't open that gap up. And maybe we should continue to see them racing as they are. As we see quite a bit of fun being had in the spectator area, so that is great to see, as well as we're going to go back to crew because it looks like he is gaining on Book right now. Book just ahead, does not have the speed, and look at that pass being made. Oh, not quite. Crew smartly backed out of it when we go back to that very narrow track on the infield. It does tighten up quite a lot. These two having a good duel of it. Crew's got the inside line. It's going to be the outside line heading to the next corner, though. Is he going to try and over-under? Not quite having the speed. Book's going to keep it for the moment. These two drivers are battling it out pretty hard, as well as the battle for the third place continuing to unfold as well. As the battle for first, but the battle for third right now is side by side. Simply Steve and Eat My Dust were side by side. Almost opened the door for Joshua Spears to make his way through. Thankfully, for their sake, Joshua Spears did not make it through. Spears is determined, and I'm sure he is looking for any kind of a gap that he can exploit that these two drivers give him. Spears still just on the back bumper of It by Dust, and now we've got a really long drive to turn one. Gonna see if it's gonna be enough of a game changer with that draft. Closing the gap ever so quickly. Spears to the outside. Eat My Dust does not want to give him any time of day, and is going to hold on to that position. Now, it looks like Book has managed to keep through behind and open that gap up to about 1.6 seconds, as it seems to continue to increase just a little bit and decrease as the race goes on, depending on where they are out on track. Spears still holding on to the back bumper of these drivers just in front. This is where all the action is right now. As unfortunately, Just Dylan, Prince Adam, and Nick, the nickname Johnson, have all retired out of this event. 16 drivers are left. Not even 20 minutes in. Benny Dixon asking if R-Tups is new, and I have to ask the exact same question. I'm not sure if I've seen R-Tups before. I know I haven't been here entirely too long, so I apologize if he is a returning driver from a while back. But I have not, I don't think I've called R-Tups in the races that I have been a part of. So if he is a returning face, it's nice to have him back. If he is, or she, if they are a new driver, welcome to the family. And of course, running the 69 machine just to make fun of that number, I guess. I don't really need to explain any more than that. As Joshua Spears continues on his hunt. And speaking of Nick Beaver, up 6 spots right now. That purple lighting effect on the 4GT. A beacon letting us know where he is on track at all times. Joe Albanese, biker pilot. His next targets. And that was Watercooler Dale just letting these two drivers go. A little bit wide goes Joe Albanese. And he is going to have to give that spot up. Joshua Spears down pit road. And actually down pit road this time. As we're showing Urko has also come down pit road one time before as well. These drivers pitting just a little bit earlier than what was the predicted strategy for tonight's race. Maybe trying to change it up. See what else can be gained as what has happened here. Dixon has had a falling off of the racetrack. You know who is running away with it. Dixon with some kind of incident. Let's take a look. And that is going to give up the race lead. Oh, not sure what happened there. So it almost looked like he might have had a little bit of trouble with his steering column. And maybe not able to turn that machine the way he wanted. Maybe didn't get slowed down enough, but it looked slow enough for the corner. Not sure what's going on with Dixon. Hopefully everything sorts itself out. He's still out on track. Still clicking off lap times. Let's try and see if we can go on board and figure out what may have happened here. That's got to be a bit of a mystery to me. As we go back live. Not sure what happened to Dickinson, but I'm sure Penny's not going to be super happy to see that one happen. As you know, who has taken over the race lead by about 5 seconds right now. Simply Steve in third with Eat My Dust. Teammate sitting right behind. They're pretty close together as Spears right behind Joe Albanese. Shout out to Joe Albanese as well, by the way, showing up week in and week out. I have had the pleasure of talking to Joe and had very nice conversations in the past. So great to see him out there, as always, putting in the work, as Joshua Spears has just overtaken him to gain his 10th place, as AJ has come down pit road and has to give up a spot as well. So some of these drivers entering pit lane a little earlier than we expected. At Sebring, we did notice that some of the drivers were entering a little later than expected. And when they did a small splash and dash in the final section, so we almost wonder if these drivers are deciding to take their shorter pit stop first time round, or what the go is there, because they're coming in a little bit earlier than we expected. We did expect a 25 to 30 minute time gap window, as the two drivers of Eat My Dust and Simply Steve currently taking over the second and third place positions as Dickinson has headed down pit road. See if that's an extended stay for whatever problem he may or may not have been having. He is still currently sitting idle there. No, he comes out at a very reasonable 15.92 seconds. Maybe slightly slow, but nothing to indicate any sort of particular issue, as they're looking at Biker Pilot just behind Beaver. Beaver has just made that position. Now the car guy asking us any idea what the predicted number of laps is. Well, I will tell you that broadcaster maths is not that great. I will actually admit fully right now that maths was my worst subject, so probably not going to be the most accurate. However, I can say that our lap times seem to be around about the 112 and a half, say 113, give a little bit of an overlap. 113 a lap, 90 minutes. That's going to be something very difficult to work out. But that means we should be heading to around about, I'm going to take my best guess without my calculator and say it's going to be something around the 50-60 lap mark, sorry. Maybe not, but either way, it'll be quite a few laps that these drivers are doing here tonight. 72-ish, Sam Renner is letting us know. So yeah, probably that sounds probably more reasonable. Agree with Sam. I already know Sam's going to be smarter than me on this. So the car guy, yes, it will be leading itself to some strategy. Penny Dixon letting us know that Beaver is up to 11th and he is fast. Well, we've always known Beaver to be a very fast driver. And yes, he is up 11 spots. Sorry, not up to 11th, up to 6th. Beaver often likes to challenge himself and do some out-of-the-box things. And he is fast no matter what car he gets himself into. I guess real-life racing definitely comes hand in hand with some skill set. Maybe not all of it, but some skills when it comes to sim racing. Penny wanting to know what happened to Sean Dixon. We showed you earlier, but we may do a recap on that one just in case you missed it. And also to just let you know why we are continuing to see what's happening with Sean. As you can see, went around and just didn't quite make the corner. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, and I probably shouldn't say this on stream, but I do think that there may be a little bit, now obviously they're not going to admit that, and I probably shouldn't be saying it, but I'm wondering if a little bit of teammate antics is coming into play with that one, as he probably knows as well as I do that you know who, as well as Joshua Spears, are currently fighting for the team championship, very close to Simply Steve and Eat My Dust, who they are all very close together. Now, I do know that Dickinson is a very good friend of you know who and Joshua Spears. although not on the same team. As you know who heads to pit lane, and in a suspected window, as well as R-Tups, Biker Pilots, Sector has just come out of pit lane, and Water Cooler Dale. Now, the Corvettes are also going to follow down, so Simply Steve and Eat My Dust, the two teammates coming down together in unison. Having to be careful, making sure not to overspeed down pit lane and cop a penalty. As Bob Nova also comes in from the 4th place spot. And if Nick Beaver stays out, that may give him the current lead. No, he's come down as well, so Dickinson may take over the lead. As Dickinson is going to take it over from you-know-who, who lets him by purely based on a very awkward pit exit. As Urko, look at that, with the early pit stop, getting himself into the 4th place spot ahead of Simply Steve and Eat My Dust. Or Eat My Dust, I should say. I've done it again. As Spears, under pit conditions, has taken over those two drivers in Speed Squad Racing. So there you go. Book with another recovery. Nice recovery so far, we're getting told. And yeah, it looks like he's doing a pretty good job. Currently sitting in the 13th position, 1 lap down. And sporting a very retro, very clean scheme. Very much a fan, gotta be honest. I'm a big endorser of the old days. And, yep, that comes to that. As Joshua Spears, what happened there? So it looks like he may have gone off track and has come back down. We're also receiving a report that Water Cooler Dale has crashed. We'll show you that in a moment, as this is very, very close between the rival teams. And Spears is just able to fend off from Eat My Dust, who is not going to take that too kindly. He's going to try and fire back. Spears brakes really late, almost gets in the back bumper of Simply Steve, who also can't brake to his fullest, as Eat My Dust has to follow in tow behind Joshua Spears right now. But we'll have the draft heading into turn 1. It's going to be interesting, as the spice just keeps on adding up. Put a bit more chili flakes on the pizza, as Joshua Spears falls back below Eat My Dust right now. Eat My Dust is going to really covet that inside lane, not want to give it back, and not want to hit his teammate just in front either. Just avoids hitting Simply Steve. And there we go. So manages to hold that position, or gain it back, I should say, from Spears. And what amazing racing, as they're right behind Urko as well, who is trying his best with that early pit stop, gaining a lot of positions to hold off these 3 charging rhinos behind. Oh, and Urko currently, gee, that, oh, I would not want to be in Simply Steve's machine when that move was made. That was very, very iffy. But Urko goes way up the track, saw the pass coming, and Simply Steve takes back over the 3rd place spot. Urko thought about coming back, decides against it, just behind Eat My Dust, still not letting Joshua Spears have any kind of room on that inside line into turn 1, and who can blame him? As there's a little bit of room there, Spears found it, made it work. Is it going to work around the next right-hander? No, it's not going to be closed off entirely by Eat My Dust. This is absolutely incredible racing. Meanwhile, AJ is lurking not too far behind in the BMW, and he is loving the action he's seeing in front of him. On board with AJ right now in that BMW. Not as many lights on the inside of that machine, really focusing him onto racing. Not getting distracted by the lights inside the car. And this is absolutely incredible. 3rd to 7th, these 5 cars in a very, very tight bunch. As they spread out just slightly on the straightaway, they are hitting some absolutely crazy speeds. As we're seeing if we're trying to get the speed up for you. Oh no, and a little bit of an incident with AJ having a bit of a spin, and that is certainly going to cost him. Unfortunately, the rear end just did not like the way he took that corner. Meanwhile, Eat My Dust made his way around Urko as well. So let's take a look at that pass for P4 between Eat My Dust and Urko. Just ahead of that spin we saw from AJ taking too much curbing, and wow. Urko, it looked like, was really trying to defend hard, but just round the outside, Eat My Dust was just too strong. And now Urko sits between Eat My Dust and Spears. This race is absolutely turning the heat up something crazy. As we thought it might have mellowed, but some of these battles certainly are not mellowing out at all. But I report the sector went off track. Got on without too much of a problem, although he does have Nick Beaver not too far behind now as well. Not quite as close as the battle we're currently looking at though, and Urko looks like wants to make another move. Sends it to the inside line. Not going to be able to do it. That leaves the door open for Spears behind with a bit of a better run. The 2 Porsches going head to head. I'm not sure Spears will have enough. He's going to try a dive. No, he's going to stay behind for the moment. Well, these drivers are really putting all their effort into this one. We go back a little bit further because Nick Beaver has caught up to the back bumper of Sector now as well. And we will keep an eye on the closing speeds of the front pack that we were looking at just before. As Dickinson is dropping you-know-who just briefly as well, about 3.4 seconds back to you-know-who from Scott Dickinson. Or Dickinson. I think I said Dickinson accidentally. Oh well, doesn't matter. As he is still out in front. And I'm sure he's happy to be there. Simply Steve setting a bit of a gap against Eat My Dust, about 0.8 of a second. Urko trying to close back up to the back bumper of Eat My Dust, as well as Spears looks like is still struggling to get around Urko and is not going to be too happy to be sitting behind for very long. Beaver made his way past Sector up into the 9th position, up 8 spots from where he started. This track seems to be lending itself much more to a defensive style of driving than an offensive style of driving, as it seems like it's pretty difficult to make a pass. Urko holds the inside line. Spears is trying anything to get as much of a run as possible, and it looks like it's worked as he is pulled up right alongside the quarter panel. Urko is going to have to give, and does so, cuts back over. It's not going to be enough though, and Spears has taken over the 5th place spot. Absolutely incredible driving. Meanwhile, Simply Steve and Eat My Dust have gotten closer together as well as Spears and Urko throughout that battle were actually able to close up slightly on the two just ahead. And talk about a team that is matched to perfection. Simply Steve and Eat My Dust, they've been running lap times almost identical to one another. You'd almost think they're the same person, but no, they are different drivers, they are in different entries, and they are in different cars, and somehow they're able to absolutely follow each other's line to a T. Something about their driving styles just works together so well, probably feeding each other information as the race unfolds. These two drivers working incredibly well together. As much as can be said for Joshua Spears and you know who. Spears usually a little bit faster than the drivers currently in front, but that's not taking anything away, as it looks like he's struggling a little bit with that Porsche right there. Way too much curbing on the inside of the kink. And that's definitely unsettled his Porsche, allowing allowing Eat My Dust to just gain a little bit, about a 2/10 advantage on what he had just then. And it looks like Bob Nova went off track in one of the better looking cars out there. We're going to have to see into turn one. So this is a very dangerous corner, this kink here, and proving its point once again. Well held by Bob Nova. Incredible driving, and to get it stopped for the next corner as well. I tip my hat to you, man. Currently sitting with Dixon, you know who, Simply Steve, Eat My Dust, Joshua Spears, your top 5. Oh, Penny letting us know, sorry if I'm getting to this a bit too late in the conversation, but it must be something that I should really point out as well, because I do believe it's a very important piece of information, as well as something we should let everyone know as well, is apparently Dixon, Penny letting us know that he has some back issues and has lost races before, getting a bit numb in his legs, and that may have been a contributing factor as to why he was a little bit strange earlier on in the race. Currently leading though, so it doesn't seem to be doing him any harm at the moment, and that's a shout out to anyone having a little bit of back issues. And I know myself, I have put off getting a new chair thinking, oh, my chair's fine, it's still alright, not knowing that I am slightly and slowly injuring my lower back by not having the support I need whenever I'm sitting down at my desk doing whatever it is I'm doing. So definitely just keep yourselves healthy as much as you can, and I hope that well, I mean, you know, more than anything else, that's just reminded me I need to buy a new chair, because my chair at the moment that I'm currently sitting on is broken. But that is okay, because we are still able to bring the action without a problem whatsoever. Joshua Spears has been closing that gap to Eat My Dust now, and is closing it slowly but surely. It seems like this is a never-ending story of Spears falling back a bit, getting all the way back up, Eat My Dust defending hard, keeping Spears behind until Spears makes a slight error and falling back, and then having to claw his way back up to the back bumper of Eat My Dust again. So certainly is the story of the night, these two. And oh, that looked very, very close indeed from the camera angles we had, as it looked like Spears may have almost speared into the back bumper of Eat My Dust, but thankfully able to not have that sort of an incident. as the night just keeps getting darker and darker. Another car guy letting us know that he's got a sim chair with only one bolt holding it together. Well, that's not ideal, is it? That bolt isn't more than finger tight either. Well, I think it might be time to get a new chair. I don't know, something tells me that you might want to see if you can invest in one. But, of course, we all make do with what we've got. I myself have done it before where I've lost padding in a chair of mine, and I just used a pillow. Not exactly the ideal thing, but it works. And, you know, human beings as we are, we find a way to make it work. So, that is really the key to success, I think, as a human race. We just find a way to make it work. It doesn't work, just think of some just random way. It'll work eventually. Trial and error, baby. As Spears continues to hunt down 8 My Dust, who in turn has closed the gap to his teammate Simply Steve a lot closer than what it was earlier. Only 0.3 of a second right now, and they were separated by about 0.7 earlier on. So this is definitely getting close. Now, what's happened here? Okay, Spears has gone into pit lane. I missed that for a second. I was wondering what happened there. Spears was one of the early ones to take that stop earlier on. We have just hit... We hit the halfway mark? My maths is on poor display right now. 45 minutes apiece on each side is... That's an hour and a half, isn't it? Yes, it is. Hey! Look at me. Able to get something right for once. As we've just passed the halfway mark of this event and lap 37. So predicted 72 laps. If we've done 37 laps and we're going to double that, then yeah, we're pretty much on the money. That'll make it 33 or 34. I mean, sorry, 73. Oh, man. It's been a long day. Joe Albanese has lit up our timing software with a bit of an incident. Let's have a look, and hopefully it was nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, that sounds bad. Nothing too untoward is what I actually meant to say. And Albanese just a slight spin, and look at that. Precision driving. Someone sent him to Tokyo Drifting School, because that man is getting close to a perfect 10 out of 10. Just a little bit more of a throw in, and that will be perfection. As Dickinson has sped through, making his way around the track. You know who? About 2 seconds, well, 2 seconds further back than when we last brought up this battle for the lead. Falling back to 5.8 seconds now, behind Dickinson, who continues to set blistering lap times, even with dwindling light. And it is interesting. So last time around, in our first set of pit stops, Spears came in, and then when he made his way back out of pit road, he was in front of both Simply Steve and Eat My Dust. So we will have to wait and see if that is the case once again. Now, as we are just over the halfway mark, we'd once again like to thank Designers Home Gallery for sponsoring the Just Two Idiots Cup Series, the Endurance Series specifically. We very much appreciate their support throughout the race and helping these drivers develop their skills out on track. I'd like to thank everyone in the spectator area as well, as always, giving us a few laughs, a few insider points, and hopefully having as much fun as I am up here in the booth as we watch effectively cars go around in circles, but they make it entertaining no matter how they get it done. And Steve has his mirror full of his teammate. Now this is always interesting because these two are so close together, because they're very similar in their driving styles. You have to wonder when, like, how do they decide who's going to be in front of the other one? And that almost makes me wonder on top of that if they've deliberately placed Eat My Dust behind Simply Steve, with a little bit of team shenanigans going on for their team as well, knowing that they might be just in front of Spears and that Eat My Dust might have a little bit more experience defending over Simply Steve. There's a few nuances there that you don't really think about, but they're underlying and definitely could be playing a factor come to the end of this race. And come to the team championship as well, which I know the Just Two Idiots Cup Series very, very much is a huge focus on the team championship aspect of things, which I as a broadcaster absolutely love. Makes it harder to find the points and figure out who's on whose team. But for the team perspective, it makes it absolutely amazing, as working with a teammate is far more enjoyable, in this broadcaster's opinion, than just making your way around at your lonesome. The fact that these two are so close together all the time is just, it still boggles my mind. I know I've talked about it too much probably at this broadcast already, but it just boggles my mind. These two are so close together. Yeah, Albanese definitely kicking a sick drift. I fully agree with that one. Also been let know that Beaver is carving up the field and would be absolutely right, up 11 spots in the 6th position right now. Just making his way onto the front stretch. I should say the back stretch, but it wraps around to the front. Since these cars are pretty much, I believe they're flat out all the way through the oval turns 3 and 4. So I'd effectively count it as almost just one big straightaway. Yes, that's how my mind works, even though that's not how corners work. But then you get some tracks that, you know, they'll tell you that there's a corner there and it's just a slight little turn to the left. Like ever so slight. That's a corner somehow. So who knows? But oh well. As, yeah, Beaver definitely making his way through the field, up 12 spots right now. But we are, remember, in our pit cycle, which is very stretched out among the entirety of the grid. Nick Beaver being one of those last few that pits in the same time as Simply Steve and Eat My Dust, as well as you know who. So these drivers all pitting the same time. Dixon has relinquished the lead a few laps ago. That is due to his fuel strategy. Jace Meyer, nice to see you joining the chat as well. Welcome to the spectator area. Loving seeing some tight pack racing, so am I. As there's been plenty of it, we may see a repeat once again of the same when some of these drivers come back around after their pit stops. But for the moment, it is all about Simply Steve and Eat My Dust, the only two drivers within 2 seconds of each other. At least in regards to their positions on track. I should say their positions on the timing board. Its positions on track would be where they are, which there are quite a few. I mean, there's Urko right there with Book. Side by side, you've got who is currently making his way around some lap traffic as well. I believe that is Joe just ahead. Yes, it is. So there's quite a few cars that are still quite close together, but they are not for position, and you can see respect from Joe Albanese opening the door and letting who right on by, as we're getting close to the 1 hour mark. We've got about 5.5 minutes to go before we make it there. So something I've been thinking about for a little while, and forgive me if I detract from the racing a little bit, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Is a hot dog a sandwich? That's always baffled my mind. Is it a sandwich? Is it a roll? Is it its own thing? Is it technically a hamburger? Because there's meat in the middle of buns. I don't know. I'm curious to see your thoughts, and hopefully I haven't sparked a massive argument in the spectator area, but yeah, very curious to see what the results of that one is. Whoa, as we're talking about hot dogs and hot diggity dog, Simply Steve goes for a bit of a spin, and that is certainly not going to be what he wanted to see. Thankfully, his teammate managed to avoid. There's just enough room between the two. But that may hurt him, as it looks like Joshua Spears may be able to stay in front if and when these drivers decide to come down pit road. But that breaks up the only real close battle for position that we had on track at that time. Sector comes down pit road, so Spears takes over the 7th place spot, Urko the 8th. Go back to that blimp cam we were looking at earlier on, and look how bright the colored Bob Nova's machine is once again. No one can match that. That is just an absolute beacon, and a beautiful beacon as well. It could just be boring, could just be white, but no, they had to go with a beautiful purple tinge, and it looks phenomenal. You know who has come down pit road? You know who is in? That gives Eat My Dust the lead. Ooh. A hot dog is a taco. There's a few here. A hot dog is a taco. Is the ocean a soup? That's a good question. Oh, that's actually... Thinking about that one, that's really interesting, because then it becomes, is soup food or drink, which is a very dividing one. But if it's food, then ocean wouldn't be ocean would just be ocean. But if it's a drink, you can drink ocean. Shouldn't, but you can. So, yeah, a hamburger is a sandwich, and so is a hot dog. Well, that's a divided opinion. I know it is for me, because I don't think a hamburger is a sandwich. But, there we go. Benny Dixon letting us know that she's hit, that Penny has hit the like button and encouraging others to do so as well. We very much appreciate that. It lets us know just how we're doing, whether it is a nice job for you, and if you appreciate my crazy commentary, but you certainly don't have to. You know, I'm not going to be one of those, and maybe my boss will think otherwise, but I'm not going to be one of those YouTubers, or we at Team Goon Squad are not one of those sort of companies that's like, oh, you have to like and subscribe and all the rest of it. If you would like to, by all means, we'd very much appreciate it. But, you know, you do you. And that is completely your prerogative as your own person, as looky, Eat My Dust and Simply Steve down pit road. So how's this gonna fare? As there goes Dickinson whizzing by, and he's taking back over the lead. And taken quite a demanding lead as well, the 1:12.7. That is a very, very fast time for what we are seeing so far out on track. Bob Nova is also coming down pit road. We're going to take a look at Joshua Spears. And he is going to overtake. Eat My Dust is just on his way out. And yep, he takes over from those two. So Eat My Dust also comes out behind Urko, as well as Simply Steve and AJ came out at the worst possible time together. Somehow keeps it off the tyre barrier. AJ with a fantastic job locking up the brakes, but unfortunately going to lose a spot to Nick Beaver. And he's going to have to be careful. No one's coming around. He's going to be able to stay ahead of Bob Nova, who's just heading out of pit lane now. We're going to take a quick look at what happened there. So the two drivers just get very, very close. AJ was allowing room for Simply Steve, who was just coming out of pit road, and unfortunately didn't get the car stopped enough, ran out of room, and onto the grass there she went. But the big story right there has to be Spears as well as Urko both getting above Simply Steve and Eat My Dust. But then the question on top of that is going to be whether they can hold it. Because I wonder, that stop was just around the 1 hour mark. Now they've been pitting around about perfectly. So if Eat My Dust and Simply Steve just save a little bit of fuel just to make sure they can make it to the end, they may have those positions wound tight ahead of Urko and Spears, who will almost certainly have to pit again. Bit of shake and bake is what we are looking forward to up in the spectator area as well as in the booth. Always love a good shake and bake. As crew comes down pit road, or sorry, has been down pit road for an extended stay. That is unfortunate to see, as R-Tups has gone off track. We'll have a look what happened to him. He had Beaver just behind. And Tups just sends it a little bit too deep. I will say there is no real marker for where you should hit your brakes at that point on circuit, which is coming into the final hairpin. As you can see, just about to hit it now is Book. This corner here, there's not really any sort of brake marker. You have to very much guess. Apart from, I'm not sure if you saw as we just headed away from it, there's that little light pole right there. It's just as the barrier turns away, you can see that little pole of white greyish pole that seems to be the only real potential marker you can use to figure out where to brake, where to start hitting your brakes. As again, these GTE cars, I should have mentioned earlier, they do not have any real assist, so there's no ABS helping you brake, helping you stop. There is no traction control helping you go and put the power down, which obviously some drivers are a bit iffy on the fence of whether they like traction control or not to begin with. But definitely ABS is a huge help, and these drivers do not have it, as opposed to their much younger GT3 counterparts, which do. These cars also feel quite a bit lighter and have a bit more downforce, but less top-end speed. So if you ever wanted to know the difference between the GTEs and the GT3s, I've just do that. Although these cars do feel, I will say, they do feel bigger. They feel like they are much wider bodied, a big stance, as we currently are looking at Urko. Still holding on to that 4th spot. Eat My Dust has not been able to close that gap very much from that 5th position. I'm very curious to find out what everyone's Christmases were like. I hope you had a fantastic Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well. Now, if you ask me, my New Year was pretty basic. Didn't really do a whole lot, apart from, believe it or not, pick up my parents after they had a bit too much to drink at a family friend's place. So that was basically my event for New Year's Eve, being the chauffeur to a couple of, let's say, older, intoxicated people. We won't go too crazy with how old they are, but, you know, it past the point where you know that you shouldn't be drinking too much. Let's leave it at that. As Dickinson comes down pit road and hands over the lead to who has been consistently running very quick lap times and also pitting a few laps behind Dickinson as he comes out pretty much straight away. Just a quick splash and dash to make sure he can make it to the end. I'm not sure if he's taken enough, but we've got to wait and see, because that was a very, very quick stop. Only a 10-second time in the stall. Yeah, that's probably enough to make it to the end, as opposed to the usual 17, 18-second stops we are used to seeing throughout the field. Spears has taken over that 2nd place spot. Dickinson came out in front of Urko. Dickinson will definitely make it to the end. I would pretty much guarantee, I hope that his race engineer has given him enough to make it to the end. You know who? Joshua Spears and Urko all needing to come down pit road. Eat My Dust and Simply Steve might have enough to the end. The same goes for Nick Beaver, who could suddenly find himself in the top 5 as well. This could be very interesting coming to the final pit cycle of the night. Oh, there's a little bit of a lock-up from Joshua Spears. Dickinson is going to take advantage. He says, yes, I will take that from you. Thank you very much. Spears able to get it dialed in. Didn't screw up too much, so thankfully just a bit of a dab of a lockup of brakes. Going to be careful into the next few corners as those tyres will have a lot of heat in them and not as much grip as he would like to see, but they will cool down quite quickly, especially in the temperatures we're experiencing at the moment in the dead of night. Now we've got just over 20 minutes left in this race. It's been very, very eventful thus far. AJ just coming out of pit road. He's had a very unfortunate race, has AJ. He's had a lot of speed, but seems to catch people just in the worst of times. And we've seen him have about 2 or 3 spins due to unfortunate timing as Urko finally makes his way down pit road. He does come in typically before Noah who comes in turn a bit before Joshua Spears. It's going to be real interesting now. Spears is going to be desperate to try and keep himself in front of Eat My Dust and Simply Steve, who are he and Who's currently biggest rivals. But he's going to have to do some serious fuel saving or a very, very quick splash and dash to make it to the end. As only 5 seconds back and without a care for fuel saving strategy is Eat My Dust as well as Simply Steve very close in tow. These two drivers continuing to pretty much match each other for lap times and pace out on track. Oh, AJ's flipped a real-life race car. Well, that's something to learn. I did not know that, but now I do. And I'm glad he's okay, because that sounds horrible, and I would not want to do that myself. Although I would like to race, which I have never experienced, and it is probably one of the biggest things that I regret not having done yet. But I plan to. I definitely plan to. Although my bank account doesn't want me to. Anyway, doesn't matter. And he's letting us know that Sean is leading his team, Upfront Motorsports. And absolutely, Upfront Motorsports is currently leading the way. I believe I've said that before, but I'll say it again. They are leading the way by 4 points, a very, very meager distance ahead of Eat My Dust and Simply Steve in Speed Squad Racing. So they are very, very close in points with only 2 races to go after this one. I believe after this we head to Fuji Speedway, and then after Fuji Speedway we are going to be heading to, I believe it is Indianapolis Road Course for our final event of the season, which will also be a crown jewel, which will allow one of my fellow broadcasters to be in the booth with me, so make sure you don't miss the finale, as well as a couple weeks down the line, as well as next week. If you're interested in the sprint series with the LMP3 machines, they will be at Daytona next week. So something to look forward to every single week with the Just 2 Idiots Cup series. Bi-weekly events, endurance every second week, and in between that there is a sprint series with a random, or not a random, but a community chosen car every single season, which just happened to be the LMP3 machine for this current season as we're heading towards the latter part. There's a bunch of talk about beers in the chat. Only 4 beers. Oh, mate. Only 4 beers before you feel tired. Not so sure that's going to fly in Australia. But hey, Joshua Spears has come out of pit road as he made his way into pit road earlier. And has found himself still in front of Urko. But losing out to not only Eat My Dust, Simply Steve and Nick Beaver, but also Bob Nova as well. The very, very stylish Ford GT. Now this is something that Eat My Dust and Simply Steve don't want to see happen, but I'm sure you know who is very, very much in favor of, and not sure if you'll be able to glance it just a little bit. But behind Simply Steve, about 2 seconds back, here he comes. The Beaver himself. And he is closing that gap rapidly, as he's so well known for doing. Even in that Ford GT, which is definitely not the preferred car of the GTE machines. But he is making it look like it is belonged to him all night long. As I say that, misses the apex ever so slightly and loses a little bit of ground to Simply Steve just ahead. But with a little bit over 15 minutes to go, he's going to be right on the back bumper of Simply Steve and Eat My Dust within a very short order. Mr. Hot Dog Suit himself. So we will see if Beaver can make up that time. Yeah, as I was saying, only 4 beers. That is, that's not ideal. Now, if you're underage, don't drink. But if you are, if you, wait, I don't know how that works. But anyway, if you are legally allowed to drink, by all means, drink. But don't drive afterwards. Unless you've had under the limit. Do that. As I could probably use a beer myself, I'm not going to lie. I'm more of a Guinness drinker myself. Which I'm sure that says a lot to some people out there, but I do like a Guinness. Anyway. Eat My Dust and Simply Steve still very much nose to tail, but Beaver is slowly closing that gap. Just under a second now and closing quickly on that hairpin. Let's take a look on board that Beaver's machine. The Ford, I know, is a nice place to sit. And it might not be the best car out on track or the most popular, but it looks phenomenal on the outside and in. And Beaver is pushing that thing to its breaking point. Right on the back bumper, not wanting to do too much of Simply Steve. So Simply Steve and Eat My Dust have changed hands. 3rd and 4th with Beaver right behind. Now this is going to be very interesting with about 13 minutes to go. And geez, you can see Beaver is just so much better under braking. And that's really where he's been gaining his time all race long, is into the braking markers. And you can see he's just so much stronger. And a beautiful smooth exit with a tiny bit of opposite lock, but nothing crazy. As opposite steering, I should say, not all the way to the lock. As we have 14 cars still out on track at the moment. And we're looking very, very nice. And there goes the dive from Beaver. Absolutely dominant dive right there to the inside of Simply Steve. Absolutely no waiting being played by Nick Beaver. He is desperate to make up as many positions as possible. We'll see if Eatmydust can hold him back. We know he's great at defending, but will it be enough to hold back Loveseat? Beaver all on his lonesome here tonight for his team. Captain CK not making it out tonight, but Team Loveseat still in the 3rd spot overall. And Beaver definitely showing an example as to why, as he is in a bit of a speed squad sandwich right now. Sector has gone off track, allowing AJ another spot. Take a look at what happened there just briefly. Sector, just too much speed heading into that corner, trying to whip it around and not allowing enough. Joe Albanese has had an incident. Not again. This time it looks like it's a little bit worse than some of the other Tokyo drifts. And... oi! He tried his drift once again. This time losing it. Artups as well has been shown as having an incident. I'm not so... oh! And that's Artups coming back. Oh, move out of the way. Dangerous. Dangerous place to be stopped on circuit. And thankfully everyone avoids it without too much of a worry. And while we were watching that, Nick Beaver has made his way around Eatmydust. We will go and take a look at that as well. If we can find it. Doesn't look like it's coming up very well, so we're going to have a look this way. That was the move on Simply Steve. No, that was the move on Eatmydust. There you go. So just using the draft to its fullest. And there we go. I should have played that off like I knew that was the exact replay, so that you wouldn't have been any the wiser. But, fortunately, I just followed what was going on too quickly without paying attention as to what I was speaking. As Simply Steve is still sitting in the 5th position. Unfortunately, a spot further behind as Beaver has taken over that 3rd place position with just under 10 minutes left to go in this race. I think Beaver is good on fuel. Just out of curiosity, we had a spectator asking. Beaver should be good to go on fuel, as well as Eatmydust, Simply Steve, and Dickinson. You know who I believe has to pit. Oh, actually, Beaver and you know who came down at the same time, now that I'm looking at this. On lap 46. Both in their pit stalls for a full chunk of fuel. So that's all of a sudden made me question everything. If you know who does not have to pit before this race is over, that is going to be an absolutely spectacular strategy call. So spectacular that we weren't even sure it was happening. That's how spectacular. Yeah, you're right. They have been pushing for a little while, so potentially a splash and dash. And this is where Eatmydust and Simply Steve can coordinate themselves as well, because they could probably draft off one another, allowing each other to save some fuel as teammates if they deem that they need some. So I'm confident that Eatmydust and Simply Steve will have enough to make it to the end. They came in on lap 48, which is 2 laps later than when Beaver and You Know Who came by. So they may need a very small splash and dash. You could be right. Very, very interesting stuff. Always keeping us on the edge of our seat. The fuel strategy game coming into play once again. And that is why we love endurance racing. Because you never know what's going to happen. It's never one and done all up in the first few laps. So this could go any which way, even still. Avavoom Race Gaming, thank you very much for joining us in the spectator area, cheering on Bob Nova, and we'll give him another look. And you can just have a look at how beautiful this car lights up when it's out of the lights themselves. And it is just an absolute beauty of a machine with that really nice pink-purple lighting arrangement it's got going on there. Underneath the rear, I want to say rear wing, even though it's not the wing, because a wing is a spoiler on a car. Not sure what that would be called, because it's like an open section, but anyway, whatever. It looks good, no matter what it's called. Let's leave it at that, as Joe Albanese comes down pit road for his final stop. Just a quick splash and dash for him, only in the pit stall for 8 seconds. Nick Beaver, our biggest mover of the race, up 14 positions from when he started in pit lane during this race. Absolutely scything through the field and making his way into the top 3 positions. You're all but positive that Beaver will have to pit. Well, it's going to be close. There's only 5 minutes left. If they need a splash and dash, it's going to be very, very close. And the thing is, You Know Who is actually in the perfect position, because if he can't quite make it, but he has enough time to lose, and here he comes, pit lane, right as we were just about to say it, You Know Who comes down. What are we going to see because of that? It's going to be very interesting indeed. So You Know Who has come down pit road. He pit on the same lap as Nick Beaver. See if Beaver has to come down pit road. Dickinson takes over the lead. He won't have to pit again. He is out in front. Beaver has come down for a splash and dash as well. They are currently still sitting in there. You Know Who just starts to make his way out. He's still ahead of Eat My Dust and Simply Steve, who are fighting between themselves for the 3rd position. Beaver is still sitting in pit road. And he is going to stay there for a tiny bit longer, as he's just made his way out to the exit. So Beaver is not going to be a factor in the top 3, but will he be in the top 5? Spears comes right at the perfect time to maybe hold on to it, but it's not going to happen, as Nick Beaver has the inside line coming out of pit road, and that is going to severely hurt Up Front Motorsports Challenges. I thought I had it right, and I did. Chances of keeping Simply Steve and Eat My Dust with Speed Squad behind them on the standings. If Nick Beaver gets his way in between, which it looks like he is definitely going to stay there, we'll see if Spears can fight back. It's going to be a tall order with Nick Beaver at the wheel, but you never know, as Spears definitely himself has a lot of speed in his machine. New tyres under Nick Beaver. They've maybe got not as much heat in them. Not new tyres, excuse me, but they have been sitting idle while he's put fuel in, cooling down, not being used. Book gets out of the way coming down pit road as well, with just under 3 minutes to go. Joshua Spears falling back, not quite having enough pace just to keep in contention with Beaver. Just a slight bit slower at the moment. He's going to have to really put the hammer down if he wants to keep his team right alongside. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what the points standings are looking like if we end the race like this in terms of team standings. Dickinson will stay at the top of the table. And I believe Tonlo didn't make it out tonight as well. Now he's currently sitting second on the driver standings with Simply Steve in third. So Tonlo might be knocked out of second place, which will allow Simply Steve and then Joshua Spears and Nick Beaver having their own fight for the 4th and 5th positions out for the very top 5 spots. So it's all coming to a head towards the end of the season. Artup's on pit exit. He came down pit road as well. Drew has been there for a very extended period of time. He is out of the race and done. 14 machines we still have on track have been there for a little while now, keeping themselves going. And we cannot thank them enough for providing a whole heap of action. And look at that, Beaver sends it a little bit too deep, allowing Spears to catch back up. And the gap gets closer and closer, 0.3 of a second. 1 minute to go in this race. Where is Dickinson? He's just about to head to the line. So this is going to be the final lap for Dickinson as he just heads across. A little bit of lap traffic causing a little bit of a checkup. I believe that may have been just Dylan. Or Watercooler Dale, I think that may have been just Dylan, and it was... No, it was not. That was not Watercooler Dale either. Was that? That was Artups, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Never mind, though, as he did get out of the way. It was just an unfortunate series of circumstances that caused them to get closer together, but here comes Spears. He's got the drafting power behind him, but Nick Beaver just seems so composed up front. We're going to keep a close eye on this battle as Dickinson heads to the final tight corner on the backstretch. He's going to be making his way around the last few moments. But it's very, very close between Beaver and Spears. And we will pan the camera away just briefly. Here comes Dickinson taking the checkered flag for the win. Noah Who not too far behind in the second position, about 15 seconds or so. That's not too bad considering a 90-minute race. There he goes. Simply Stephen Eat My Dust, third and fourth, but the battle for fifth continues. Beaver stays in front for the moment. It's going to be very, very close at the line, though, as Spears has the drafting power. But I don't believe it's going to be enough, as he's a little bit too far behind Beaver at the moment. 4/10 closing the gap, 3.5. Down to 3, but it's not going to be enough. And Beaver takes it home for the 5th place spot. Absolutely phenomenal racing all around by every single driver. And that was just crazy to witness. Dickinson definitely take a bow. You know who in second. And Simply Steve bring it home in the 3rd place position. Bring up those results for you. If it works, please tell me it works. Sometimes this can be a bit finicky with the results page. And we will see. Come on. It'll work. Alright, it looks like finicky will be the aim of the game right now, but we will show you the intervals anyway. So, Dickinson, You Know Who, Simply Steve in 3rd with Eat My Dust, and Nick Beaver in our top 5. Spears with Urko, Bob Nova, AJ and Sector your top 10. Biker Pilot, Book, Artups, Joe Albanese, and unfortunately, Crew in the 15th position, not making it the end of the race. Our first car that did not quite make the distance, followed by Waterdale, Just Dylan, Prince Adam, and Nick Johnson, rounding out our 19-car grid for the night. We'll get ready for some interviews. Don't go anywhere, as we're pretty much going to start them straight away. So we're going to bring up Simply Steve. And Steve, welcome to the broadcast booth. It's Gareth up here. Have you got a copy?
Copy that. I'm here. Yes.
Well, welcome to the broadcast room. I tell you what, it was an absolutely phenomenal show watching you come through the field with Eat My Dust right behind, constantly switching positions, putting on a fantastic show all race long. What was the strategy? Was there any team communications at play during that race?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we kind of as soon as the race start kind of shook things out a little bit, and we started losing to the people in front, and we were losing their draft. It was like, all right, well, I guess we got to save to try and make this strategy to have a winning strategy maybe. So yeah, we were both saving using the maps and lifting and coasting, trying to just make some time up where we could. So yeah, we were definitely working together the whole time.
Yeah, it looked like a amazing race. I can say that for sure. Now, I've got to say, were you a bit worried that I want to say Joshua Spears was going to stay out as well as Nick Beaver? They were both on the same strategy. They pitted 2 laps before you two, and it just wasn't enough. Were you on fumes? Were you worried that they were going to make it to the end? Give us some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean that's the nice thing about having like other people on the team, being able to like look at we both have some like overlays that can help figure out like when did they pit, how long did they pit. And so like Lucas and I were both kind of figuring out, okay, they pit this lap and it was roughly this long, and so we can somewhat sometimes deduce like what the strategy is. And I think both of them pit early enough that a two stop wasn't going to happen because we had to go as long as we could to make it go 2 stops. So we weren't, I don't think, sweating it too much, but we were definitely sweating our like hitting our fuel numbers because it was definitely tight.
All right. Well, it's been amazing talking to you, Steve. As always, I tell you what, before we let you go, thank you once again for putting on a great show. Who would you like to give a shout out to? Friends, family, sponsors? The floor is absolutely yours.
Yeah, I mean, give a shout out to my teammate Lucas, Eat My Dust, to everyone in the chat. It was Bob, and Erico today, and any my girlfriend if she's watching, or any friends. Yeah, anyone that supports me in all this bowl that I do.
All right. Sounds good, Steve. We will see you next week or in 2 weeks' time, maybe both. Who knows? Uh, Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll see you then. We look forward to talking to you in the booth again.
Thanks for having me. Hope to see you then.
Sounds good. All right, that was Simply Steve bringing it home in the 3rd place. Next up, you know who in 2nd position. Definitely nothing to sneeze at 2nd place. You know who. Have you got a copy?
Hello, I'm here.
All right, it is nice to have you up here in the booth. Now, let us know from your perspective what was going on in your head. What were you thinking when that issue happened with Dickinson? And were you thinking this race was in the bag, or did you know that he was going to come back for you? Were you worried about Simply Steve and Eat My Dust working together? Just give us an overall sort of opinion on what was going on through that 90 minutes of racing.
I had a feeling Sean was going to be back after his little mishap. I was on a call with him, and I guess his computer glitched out. I know in the first stint, I was keeping up pace with him, but he definitely has it kind of over the long run. And then at the end, Simply Steve and Eat My Dust were definitely a surprise. I didn't think they were fuel saving, and I realized they were an actual threat a couple laps to go. Glad I was able to keep up the pace, but that made it interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely made it interesting. They still, well, actually, they were a little bit closer to you than I initially thought. Um, But I tell you what, it was a great race. I really enjoyed watching the battles with yourself and Dickinson. You were able to hold on to the back of him for quite a while there. Now, I have to ask, I know it's a little bit untoward, but how sweaty are you right now?
I usually run pretty sweaty, so I can say my gloves are soaked right now.
Oh, well, I tell you what, it was well worth it. Great for you and great for the team as well. Upfront Motorsports, it's going to be really close to see where they come out of this one with Speed Squad Racing, because two are so close in team standings, and it's going to be really close to see where it comes out for the final two races of the season. But before I give you a way to go and celebrate the second place, who would you like to give a shout out to? Friends, family, sponsors? The floor's yours.
Yeah, let's give a shout out to Mom, Dad, Jesus, obviously. Thanks for all the support.
All right, sounds good. You know who? It's been fantastic pleasure talking to you in the booth, and we look forward to seeing you again potentially next week, and if not, in 2 weeks' time for the next installment at Fuji.
All right, see you soon.
Right, that was You Know Who, bring it home in the second position. Up next, the man, the myth, the legend, the Dickinson. Have you got a copy, my friend?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going?
It is going incredibly well. Now, we heard from You Know Who that you had a bit of a computer glitch, excuse me. During that, we saw you have a little bit of a, I guess I'd call it a bobble on the exit of the final hairpin. Let us know exactly what happened, if or if it was just like, I don't know. I've had it before where I've accidentally hit the
Yeah.
Windows key, for example, and it's just gone everything crazy.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't accidentally hit anything. I was just turning in the middle of that corner, and then all of a sudden my computer locked up. So it just completely froze. So I'm just like, I can still feel the force feedback and stuff. So I'm like, I trying to just straighten out the wheel and guessed, and I'm like, okay, well I didn't hit Noah, and I didn't wreck myself, and I was able to drive off. I don't know how that happened, but I got so lucky that I was able to just like drive off. No big deal. Yeah, just gave him the the position. I had to catch him back.
Well, we
It
have
was crazy.
we've seen all manners of crazy things, but I'm glad it wasn't anything crazy. Well, I mean it was crazy, but anything like serious in regards to the computer
Yeah.
or yourself. Penny was letting us know that you have a bit of a bad back and there's something going on there, so we're thankful to hear that it wasn't that. And yeah, but overall, I must say it was a amazing race. I mean, you basically led from start to finish, apart from that small incident where you definitely had a race on your hands, because You Know Who was not going to let you have it too easily.
Yeah, no, he picked up the pace there. I'm glad he got a hang of the track and was, able to do the exact same thing that Josh did with me at Sebring a couple weeks back. So
Yeah,
it was a good race.
absolutely. Sorry to interrupt there, but yeah, Sebring was pretty much an exact, like, I don't want to say an exact replica, but a very similar sort of outcome for you. And I have to ask, now, Nick Beaver was starting all the way down at pit lane. He made up 12 spots. Just give us your opinion on, do you think that he would be an interesting contender if he was able to qualify in a better spot for you at
Absolutely.
the front?
Yeah, absolutely. He's always got pace. I don't know what's going on, if he doesn't have a quality set or if he just has more enjoyment coming from the back, passing people and stuff. But yeah, no, he really needs to get on a quality run and come up front with us, because he'll definitely give us all a run for our money.
All right.
So
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it as well. I wish the exact same. But Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We've had Penny in the chat all night cheering you on, as well as many others. So let them know what you're thinking, family, friends, sponsors. The floor is yours to shout anyone out you want for the final send-offs of the night. Congratulations on a first place victory here at Homestead Miami Speedway.
yeah, thank you. I gotta give a shout out to my team, SimCity Racing. Haven't been doing much racing, holidays and all that, family in town and everything. So I'm finally getting back in the groove, doing some races. So, I love that my mom's always watching and checking it out. She had my nephew's watching it a few weeks back. So, but yeah, just thanks everyone for having some fun watching the race.
All right, sounds good. Well, we've very much enjoyed speaking to you up here in the booth, Sean. I'm sure we'll see you again with the kind of pace you have, and we look forward to it. Go celebrate with you and your team, your family, whoever else. And yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks, if not next week. I'm not sure if you do the LMP3 series or not.
No, I don't like those cars.
All right,
But I'll
that's
see you in a couple weeks.
that's as fair and blunt as I could expect. All right,
All
well,
right,
we'll see
have a
you
good
in
one.
2 weeks at Fuji.
All right, see ya.
All right, that was Sean Dickinson letting us know his thoughts and feelings heading into the rest of the season, or next race, I should say, as well as his thoughts on how the race and some of the racing drivers were in this event for you tonight. Once again, I have been your host, Gareth McAllister, bringing you the action in at 1080p and 60 FPS, provided my Australian internet was working at its optimal. Um, with Team Goon Squad, as I said, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for making this an absolute blast of a show. So much fun in the spectator area. It's been amazing, and I look forward to seeing you next week for the Sprint Series in Daytona, and potentially, if you're going to miss that one, in 2 weeks for the next endurance race at Fuji Speedway. See you then.